Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Brian's Horror Corner, or welcome if you are new. This is the next movie in my current April 2024 franchise series that we're going to take a look at. I've been taking a look at the Evil Dead franchise, of course. The first three movies I've watched and reviewed, those are up on my channel for this series. Today, we're going to go ahead and take a look at the reboot, the reimagining um, of Evil Dead from 2013. It's obviously a reboot reimagining from the original 1981 The Evil Dead movie. So, obviously, never seen this movie before up until now for this series, but I had heard that it was one of the better horror remakes by many people. Not remakes, but one of the better horror. Well, yeah, I guess remakes, reboots, reimaginings, whatever you want to call it. Basically a movie that takes from a movie that came before it, and has a different sort of goes a different way with it, if you will. That's more of a reboot or reimagining, as opposed to something like Psycho, which is just a shot-for-shot remake. So, anyway, Evil Dead from 2013. Let's go ahead and get into it, starting with the setup and the premise here. So, Evil Dead is a 2013 American supernatural horror film directed by Fede Alvarez in his feature directorial debut. He co wrote the screenplay with Rodo Sagas. It's dubbed a reimagining of The Evil Dead from 1981. The film is the fourth installment in the Evil Dead film series. Um, the story follows a group of five people under attack by deadites in a remote cabin in the woods. Sound familiar? So basically, it starts with the girl is tied up in the cellar of a remote cabin where an old woman is reciting incantations from a strange book in the Welsh language. The girl reveals her demonic possession, and her father Harold sets her ablaze and shoots her dead. So that's how the film opens. Sometime later, David Allen and his girlfriend Natalie arrive at the cabin with their dog Grandpa, where they meet his estranged younger sister Mia and their friends Eric and Olivia. The group plans to stay in the cabin while Mia overcomes her heroin addiction. Mia begins having withdrawal symptoms. David discovers that the cabin's cellar is littered with rotting animal corpses, a worn double barrel shotgun, and a book called the Natarum de Monto. Natarum de Monto. Yeah, we'll go with that. So I don't know if I'm pronouncing that 100% correct, but we're going to go with it. So that's sort of the setup and the premise, and then the movie obviously goes from there. As far as the cast goes, we have Jane Levy as Mia Allen, Shiloh Fernandez as David Allen, Lou Taylor Pucky as Eric, Pucci. I don't know the pronunciation for that. Uh, Jessica Lucas as Olivia, and Elizabeth Blackmore as Natalie. So yeah, that's the setup, the premise, and the cast for the 2013 reboot of the Evil Dead, which is Evil Dead, uh, from 2013. I tend to agree with people having seen this. This is definitely one of the best horror remakes. Definitely top five. The only reason I won't go higher than top five is because I haven't seen all the horror remakes, and I want to be fair to all of them. But from the ones I have seen, this is definitely one of the better readapted, reimagined horror movies out there. So let's just go ahead and get into it, starting with my pros for Evil Dead from 2013. So, you have to kind of start where I left off there. The movie does everything right in terms of a horror remake. It's not, starting with the fact that it's not a shot for shot lesser version of an original movie in the same way that some others are, aka Psycho, aka The Omen. Um, it takes the same idea and premise, but very much makes it its own with differences in characters and character motivation, storyline, and just overall aesthetic. And this movie does a great job of all those things. And that's what really makes it an effective horror reboot. This movie does an amazing, effective job at making it its own. As I said, it's definitely a top five horror remake for sure. And that's me saying that before I've seen all of them. So we'll see. I'm sure it'll probably go top two, top three at some point. The opening scene I thought was very effective right off the bat. It's an instant audience grabber to introduce both what's in store for the viewer with this movie in terms of the gore and the violence and the horror, as well as it has a nice little subversion of expectations, a little twist, if you will. It really works well for me to just get engaged right from the jump into this movie and what it was going to be. So, yeah, I had to shout out that opening scene. I thought it was very effective for the movie overall. A lot of credit to first time director here, Fede Alvarez, who of course has gone on to direct Don't Breathe and Don't Breathe 2, which I haven't seen, but I have seen the first Don't Breathe movie. I reviewed that on my channel. For this being his directorial debut in terms of um, uh, a feature, that's the word I was looking for, a feature directorial debut. Wow, does he do an amazing job here? A lot of credit goes to him, especially as it relates to his visual flair, his camera work, camera shots that he has, the cinematography in this movie, the visuals, just very effective pacing as well in this movie. All credit goes to Fede Alvarez. He just, I still can't believe it's his directorial debut. I mean, he did better with this movie than directors that have directed 10 or 15 years that I've seen anyway, in my opinion. So, yeah, Fede Alvarez, this is his crowning achievement here. Even though I really like Don't Breathe and I haven't seen anything else that he's done since then, I think this is a little better than Don't Breathe, although that movie's great too. Not to take anything away from it. So, yeah, the directing is really top notch. Also, it's a very well written adaptation. I say adaptation from the original, The Evil Dead movie. um, they the writing in this movie, instead of providing the cliche reasons for the characters going to this cabin and being there and not leaving, they actually write this movie to be more believable and effective and having effective reasons for these characters being there. Um, I thought the writing really, the first Evil Dead movie from 1981 is very basic. It's very cabin in the woods cliche kind of movies. Let's go to this cabin in the middle of nowhere and party, and then of course bad things happen. In this movie, there's a reason why these characters go there. It isn't just to party or get away or whatever. There's actually some well written character motivations and story ideas here that were very effective, and that kind of surprised me more than anything with this movie. I think was just the writing and the directing. Um, so yeah, definitely props there with the writing. I think the cast does well here, but you definitely got to shout out Jane Levy, who does a really great job of playing different aspects and different layers of the character of Mia, whether it's her as a human form of Mia or a possessed form of Mia. She really gives it her all and does a fabulous job, a very believable job and performance here that she gives. Of course, she also worked with Fede Alvarez in Don't Breathe, and I thought she did a great job in that movie. So, yeah, she's definitely become one of the best horror actresses in the last 10 or 15 years for sure. And this movie is also, I would say, her crowning achievement, and I really liked her in Don't Breathe as well. But yeah, big shout out to her. But I thought the rest of the cast was effective as well for what they were asked to do. But she's obviously the main lead here, and rightfully so, and very well done. The movie, of course, is a gorehound's dream. Well, not being too silly or over the top in terms of the gore. Um, it definitely is a very bloody and gory experience, especially in the latter part of the movie. They really go for it without holding anything back in terms of limbs being torn off, characters vomiting different vials and different colored stuff, etc. I mean, I knew that about this movie. I knew the movie before I ever saw it was really one of the more gorier movies in the last 10 or 15 years. I have to say 15 now because it came out in 2013, but we're already in 2024, so we're more than 10 years. And it doesn't disappoint. I mean, this is a movie that Splatterfest fans, gore hounds, they're absolutely gonna go to this movie time and time again because not only do you have a lot of blood in this movie, a lot of gore in terms of characters having things done to them. You actually see limbs being torn off. You actually see body parts. I mean, it is all that in a bag of chips in terms of the gore here. So definitely wanted to shout that out. The movie uses predominantly physical and practical effects. There are a few video effects, but they're not even that bad, frankly. Definitely not bad CGI in this movie, but the practical and physical effects make this movie so much more effective and entertaining, as it does with most movies. But especially here, that's one of your concerns, at least for me, always going into a movie post 2000. It's going to be, how much CGI is going to be in this, and how little practical effects is going to be in this. But that's not the case in this movie. Like I said, there's a little bit of like video effects or computer effects, but not much. And what there is not that badly done. But the practical effects are big shout out to him for using them here, especially as it relates to those body parts and gore that I was talking about. The final confrontation and ending of this movie is really kick ass effective. You got the blood rain going on with the violent gore between human and demon, the fight balls to the walls, just an incredible way to close out this splatterfest kind of a movie. And yeah, it's just very it doesn't leave you unsatisfied, it doesn't leave you wanting more, although I'm sure a lot of people wouldn't have minded more. But it's just a very nice way, a very nice bow to wrap up this package of a movie here. So yeah, those are my pros for Evil Dead from 2013. I don't really have a lot of cons, and the cons I have are going to be probably controversial with some, but I fully admit that one of them is completely on me and not based on the movie or anything like that. So let me start with the first con, which is less related to me. The character of David. Oh God. I wanted to punch this guy in the face. He's that sort of typical need to drive the plot forward type character who makes a lot of bad decisions that puts himself and the other characters around him in harm's way pretty much throughout the movie because he doesn't want to believe things that are happening right in front of him. I mean, I can understand if you're being told like secondhand or something like, "Hey, we saw this in the woods." Like when the character of Mia explains to him towards the beginning of the movie that she saw this thing in the woods, this woman in the woods. He doesn't see it, so I can understand him not entirely believing her, especially when you take into account what else is going on with that character, which I don't want to give away, spoiler free. But basically, she's trying to detox from something. That I can understand, but when he's actually seen like possessed and demonic friends of his that are killing or beating up other friends of his in a demonic way. I mean, it's like, dude, come on, what the fuck, man? How much more proof do you need? And part of it is his cowardice. Part of it is he just doesn't want to believe it. But as I said, I understand why it's there. We get it in other horror movies too. It's to drive the plot forward. But that's just an annoyance that I have that's long standing for horror movies or movies in general. I was just really annoyed by this character, and like I said, I just wanted to punch him in the face a couple of times. So yeah, not a fan of the character of David, although he does finally do what's right. Not what's right, but he finally does what he needs to do towards the end of the movie. So I guess I'll give him props for that. But if he would have been doing it a lot earlier, like 45 minutes earlier in the movie, maybe he would have a few friends that would still be alive. So that's complaint number one as far as my cons go. The other one, and this is in comparison to the original Evil Dead movie. Now I know there's going to be lots of people that prefer this version, that are going to say this is the best Evil Dead movie out there, and you're not wrong. You're really not. You have a strong leg to stand on by making that argument. But for me, well, this movie clearly has a much higher budget, a much more modern Hollywood look, therefore in some ways making it easier to watch in terms of the aesthetic than the original does. The original, as I said in my review, was very low budget. It was basically Bruce Campbell and Sam Raimi making it on a weekend with some rental cameras. It looked like, frankly, it didn't have a great aesthetic. It didn't have big budget effects and things like that, although they did well with it with what they were given. um to me, and this is to me, this movie also sort of takes away from the horror, the scares of the original The Evil Dead. Because The Evil Dead has that grainy look and sense of realness to it, much like the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre and others from the 70s or 80s. It just feels much more like a Hollywood studio big budget, which it is. The budget was no, I didn't put it down, but I know it was a lot higher than the half a million or whatever it was, or 300,000 that was spent on the original Evil Dead. Um, to me, it takes away more of the horror and the authenticity of the horror movie itself that the original The Evil Dead from 1981 had. This movie, you can clearly tell, is a Hollywood budgeted movie, and that's not its fault. Like I said, it's all, this is me. It's all me. So don't come after me and say, "Oh, this movie clearly looks better than the first one." In a lot of ways, it does, but it's also less scary to me because I know it's not real. It doesn't have a grainy look to it. It doesn't have the low grade special effects, but still effective like the Evil Dead did. That being said, though, don't get it wrong. Now, this is a fantastic horror movie. Aside from being a reboot or reimagining, this is just a fun, entertaining, very tight, well paced, well directed, well acted, splatterfest, gorefest, well written movie. I mean, it covered all my bases there, but it really is. It's just, it does its own thing, which I really appreciate. It really goes balls to the walls, which I really appreciate. It doesn't try to copy The Evil Dead. Um, so I love it. I mean, this is an 8.5 out of 10 as far as my rating goes for this movie. It'd probably be a 9.5, but I just can't get over the character of David. And again, he's not the first character to annoy me in a horror movie. I understand why they did it. I really do. It's to move the plot forward. I get it, but I just can't. I've still seen other movies do it better. So David, you bring this down a point. So 8.5 for Evil Dead 2013. Go ahead and comment down below your love or dislike for this movie. I doubt there's a lot of dislike for it, but your thoughts about Evil Dead 2013, the remake slash reboot slash reimagining. Please like this video, hit the little notification bell down below, and subscribe to my channel so you don't miss any of my upcoming reviews or videos for this series, but also that you don't miss any of my great horror content that I have coming out for the rest of the year and beyond. Um, with that being said, I hope everybody's doing well. Thank you for watching this review. I hope you're enjoying this series. And as always,